Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about something that can turn your dream garden into a full-blown thriller. Have you ever stopped to wonder whether your own backyard could become a battlefield, one where you end up on the losing side? Picture this. You pick up a charming little flower at the nursery, or you plant a useful herb for your evening tea. 2 years later, you discover that sweet little thing has devoured your entire raised bed, choked out your prized strawberries, and is now making a run for your house foundation. Today we're going to break down the most aggressive plants out there, the ones I call green terminators. These aren't just weeds, these are genuine invaders with the tactical instincts of saboteurs. Some strangle their neighbors in an iron grip, others punch through concrete with their roots, and some literally poison the soil so nothing else can survive nearby. We value our time and energy here, so I've put together the ultimate blacklist of 20 offenders, from the ones we accidentally bring home ourselves, all the way to the real monsters that can actually tank your property value. If you don't want to spend the entire summer with a shovel in one hand and tears running down your face, stay with us until the end. Let's put a face to the enemy and figure out how to stop this green apocalypse. Lily of the Valley. This little charmer with its nostalgic, sweet fragrance is actually a green collar hacker. You plant a couple of clumps under your apple tree, enjoy the delicate spring bells, and 3 years later you discover that Lily of the Valley has constructed an underground concrete grid of roots so dense that even your cultivated lilies can't break through it. It doesn't just grow, it systematically evicts everything else from your garden. In cooler, wetter climates, the Pacific Northwest, New England, or the upper Midwest, this plant is a genuine menace. Moist soil is like a performance-enhancing drug for it. In hot, arid regions like Texas or Arizona, it behaves a bit more modestly because of the heat, but it'll still creep into every gap it can find. If you truly can't resist its beauty, the only option is to sink an old washtub or a sheet of plastic root barrier about 18 inches deep into the soil, creating a literal underground prison for it. And remember, this plant is toxic from tip to root. If you've got kids or curious dogs in the yard, think long and hard before letting this double agent into your garden. Horseradish. The king of the old-fashioned vegetable garden and the personal nightmare of anyone who has ever tried to get rid of it. Horseradish has a superpower that would make any comic book hero jealous. Its root plunges nearly 10 feet into the ground, and every tiny fragment you accidentally slice off with your shovel during weeding immediately rebounds as a brand new full-strength plant. So instead of fighting it, you end up multiplying it. It conquers gardens with equal enthusiasm, whether you're growing in Minnesota or in the rich, dark soil of the Great Plains. Here is a rule you should never break. Never, and I mean never, go after a horseradish patch with a rototiller. You'll chop it into thousands of cuttings and end up with a field of horseradish where your potatoes used to be. Plant it only in an old barrel with the bottom knocked out, so this underground monster stays caged and can't stick its nose into your vegetable beds. Mint. We all dream of sitting on the porch with a cup of fresh mint tea on a summer evening. But mint dreams about your garden far more passionately than you dream about that tea. It takes over territory through stolons, underground runners that race through the soil faster than you can brew that cup. You plant it in one corner, and a month later, it's cheerfully waving at you from underneath your strawberry plants, 15 feet from where it started. It really goes wild in loose, moist soil. In drier climates like the Southwest, it might calm down a bit without regular irrigation, but the moment it rains, the expansion picks right back up. Mint is a container plant, full stop. Either sink it in a solid-walled pot or keep it on your patio. Otherwise, you'll spend all summer picking those white runners out of your beloved flower beds, and they will keep coming back no matter what you do. Staghorn sumac. Staghorn sumac looks absolutely spectacular, a real architectural showstopper that blazes deep crimson in the fall. But it's a trap. Sumac is a terminator tree. Its roots creep horizontally just beneath the soil surface and shoot up brand new trees 50 feet away from the parent. Imagine sitting on your porch and suddenly a small tree starts pushing up through your garden path, or right through the foundation of your greenhouse. In the Southeast and throughout the Midwest, this is a genuine catastrophe. It spreads at frightening speed in those conditions. The only way to tame it is to either plant it on a concrete island or to constantly mow down every single new sprout to the ground. Give it even one season of slack, and your tidy garden will turn into a sumac jungle you won't escape easily or cheaply. Chinese lantern. Those cheerful orange paper lanterns that look so wonderful in fall arrangements and dry bouquets. In the garden, however, this is a bona fide aggressor in bright packaging. Its sneakiness lies in the fact that it spreads through both endless self-seeding and creeping rhizomes simultaneously. You planted it for decoration in one corner, and next year, those little lanterns are glowing right in the middle of your tomato bed. It's incredibly cold-hardy and will grow wherever there's even a scrap of soil. The only chance you have for peaceful coexistence is strict isolation in a concrete container or a sunken bucket. And always clip those lanterns off before they split open and drop their seeds. Otherwise, Chinese lantern becomes your own personal curse, one that's nearly impossible to shake for years. This is the case where beauty demands not sacrifice, it demands your weekends, your patience, and a deep line of root barrier. You know, gardeners watch videos like this from all over the country, from Florida to Maine, from Texas to the Pacific Northwest. And here's what's interesting. The same aggressive plant behaves very differently depending on where you live. In one region, it just sits quietly and behaves itself, and in another, it turns into a genuine monster. I'd really love to know which plant on this list is giving your region the most grief. Drop a comment below letting me know where you garden and which plant you're fighting the hardest battle against. Let's find out together where the most unkillable hops live, or where the most brazen lily of the valley grows. Hops. If you decided to decorate your pergola with hops, prepare yourself. This green strangler is going to show up everywhere, on the roof, in the apple trees, and eventually in your nightmares. Hops grow so fast it almost seems like they move overnight, quietly conquering new territory. The vines are like living barbed wire. They dig into any support and smother everything alive by blocking sunlight and cutting off the flow of sap. In the Mid-Atlantic and Great Lakes regions, hops feel absolutely at home. And in the Southwest, with regular irrigation, they can turn a yard into an impenetrable jungle in a single season. Getting rid of them is a genuine undertaking because the roots are thick cables that seem to reach straight down to the center of the earth. Plant hops only if you're prepared to go out every single week with a pair of loppers and mercilessly cut back everything that doesn't belong there. Even better, immediately sink concrete slabs or sheet metal panels around the planting zone. Otherwise, in a couple of years, it will literally seal you inside your house behind a solid green wall. Sorbaria, false spirea. A lot of people fall for the delicate feathery leaves and fluffy white plumes of Sorbaria. Don't let it fool you. This is a tank among shrubs. It doesn't just grow, it systematically colonizes your property. Sorbaria fires underground runners several feet out in every direction. Where your perfect lawn was yesterday, today a new spiky shrub is poking through. In the northern states, New England, the upper Midwest, it's valued for its phenomenal cold hardiness. But in temperate climates, it becomes completely unmanageable. If you don't want your garden to turn into a single-species Sorbaria thicket within 5 years, grab the biggest bucket you can find with the bottom knocked out and plant it only in that. No open ground near your vegetable beds. This plant does not understand the concept of enough. It only recognizes a hard physical barrier and your constant vigilance with a shovel at the ready. Virginia creeper. This vine is the absolute champion of survival and camouflage. First, it delights you with those fiery red leaves every fall, and then one day you suddenly notice it has yanked your downspout off the wall, crawled under the shingles, and started dismantling your roof from the inside out. Virginia creeper doesn't just climb. It suctions itself permanently onto any surface with its little adhesive pads. In the warmer parts of the South and throughout the mid-Atlantic states, this plant is a full-blown force of nature. In a single summer, it can completely swallow an old shed or garage. If there's even a small patch of loose soil on your property, it will put roots down there and start draining every resource from the ground. The only way to coexist with it peacefully is to plant it where it's surrounded entirely by concrete, asphalt, or dense paving stones, so the roots can't go deep. Otherwise, prepare to spend your entire life as the personal gardener of this monster, trimming back a yard of vine growth every week just so it doesn't seal you inside your own home. Jerusalem artichoke. It's often called a superfood and praised for its remarkable health benefits. But for the gardener, it's a biological weapon with a delayed fuse. Jerusalem artichoke shoots up taller than a person within just a few weeks, casting such a dense shade that any seedlings underneath it simply die. Its true treachery is that it muscles out even the most aggressive weeds, becoming the sole lord of whatever ground it occupies. In dry climates across the Southwest, it handles drought without breaking a sweat, and throughout the Midwest and the northern states, it overwinters with zero trouble, growing stronger with each passing year. Leave even one tiny tuber in the ground, the size of your thumbnail, and next year, you're looking at another 8-foot wall of green. If you're going to grow it at all, do it only on the far side of a fence line or inside a strictly contained concrete box. Otherwise, this supposedly useful plant will transform your garden into an impenetrable plantation where nothing else will ever grow again. Blackberry, especially wild varieties or old cultivars. Blackberry isn't just a berry, it's barbed wire that knows how to walk. It has a diabolical habit. The moment the tip of a long cane touches the ground, it immediately roots itself right there. That's how blackberry marches across your property, throwing up impenetrable thorny barricades as it goes. If you've got moist soil and mild winters, common throughout the Southeast and much of the Mid-Atlantic, it can turn your garden into a wildlife trap within a couple of years. The roots are powerful, and the thorns are brutal enough to shred ordinary garden gloves. Getting rid of it is a serious undertaking. It regenerates from any scrap of root left behind. Only plant modern thornless varieties and keep them strictly on a trellis, constantly cutting back any cane that tries to lie down on the soil. As for wild blackberry encroaching from the edge of your property, drive it off without mercy. Or pretty soon, you'll need a machete just to move around your own yard. I read your comments, and I love how far and wide gardeners reach, from the Midwest to the Gulf Coast, from the Pacific Northwest to the Great Plains. Every region has its own favorite villain. In some places, quackgrass threads right through potato tubers underground, and somewhere else, field bindweed wraps an entire greenhouse in a cocoon overnight. Tell me in the comments, which of these invaders does your area consider the most indestructible? Who is your personal enemy number one, the one that no shovel and no herbicide can seem to touch? Let's share what we know and fight this together. Field bindweed. This sweet-looking little vine with its dainty white morning glory flowers is a professional strangler. Bindweed doesn't just grow next to your vegetables, it uses them as a ladder to the sun, wrapping itself around stems so tightly that it cuts off their airflow and snaps them under its own weight. In the Southwest, it thrives in the wide-open, well-drained soil. In the South and across the Midwest, it grows with abandon in rich, loamy ground, where its roots can bore down 6 feet or more. Trying to pull it out is like trying to bail out the ocean with a soup spoon. The root is brittle and snaps at the slightest tension, and every broken-off piece sends up a fresh wave of sprouts. Let it flower once and scatter its seeds, and you are looking at a 50-year war. That is literally how long its seeds can lie dormant in the soil, patiently waiting for their moment. Only a consistent program of exhaustion, combined with black landscape fabric, can slow it down, but you cannot relax for a single season. Quackgrass. If the plant kingdom held an Olympics for survival, quackgrass would sweep every gold medal. Its roots are sharp white spears that skewer everything in their path, right through potato tubers, through old wooden boards, through anything that gets in the way. It builds a seamless, unbreakable underground network that siphons every nutrient out of the soil, leaving your cultivated plants on a permanent starvation diet. In the upper Midwest and throughout New England, where the soil stays moist for much of the year, quackgrass rules like it owns the place. Here is a warning worth repeating. Never try to fight quackgrass with a rototiller. You will shred the roots into thousands of pieces, and instead of one problem, you'll have a million new ones. Only careful hand removal with a garden fork, or smothering it under several layers of cardboard for a couple of seasons, can actually put a dent in it. This plant doesn't do compromises. It only understands total and complete surrender. Ground elder, bishop's weed. Ground elder is the shadow occupant that fears nothing. It loves the damp, shaded corners of a yard, where within a couple of months, it builds such a dense canopy of umbrella-shaped leaves that nothing else survives underneath. Its rhizomes are endless white threads that interweave so densely the soil begins to feel like cotton batting. Throughout the northern U.S. and the Pacific Northwest, this is arguably the #1 weed in older, established gardens. The biggest mistake you can make is leaving even half an inch of root in the soil. It will immediately give rise to a whole new plant. If you don't want your woodland garden or flower bed to turn into a solid ground elder prairie, hold your line with deeply sunk edging and cut it to the ground constantly, never allowing the leaves to gather energy and feed the roots. This is a prolonged war of attrition, and only the most patient gardener wins. Comfrey. Comfrey is often planted as a medicinal herb or for its pretty, pendulous, bell-shaped flowers. But that's exactly the trap. Its taproot goes almost as deep as horseradish, and it's incredibly brittle. Try to dig it up, and it snaps right at shovel depth, immediately pushing out 3 new shoots from whatever stub remains below. In the southeast and throughout the Midwest, it grows to enormous proportions, casting deep shade over everything around it with its massive, rough-textured leaves. It's nearly impossible to kill with herbicides because the root system is just too powerful and deep. If it has already moved in, prepare for a multi-year siege. The approach that actually works. Cut the growing crown below soil level and pack the spot with salt or cover it with something completely light-proof. Comfrey is one of those cases where the theoretical benefits of the plant are vastly outweighed by the damage it causes through its unchecked territorial takeover. Ribbon grass, reed canary grass. This ornamental variegated grass with its crisp white and green striped blades looks wonderfully stylish in a landscape design, but its rightful place is only inside a solid concrete planter. Ribbon grass is an aggressor among ornamental grasses. Its roots are so rigid and powerful that over time they form what amounts to a solid underground mass that you literally cannot split apart with an axe. It spreads outward in every direction with alarming speed, transforming from a tidy clump into a massive swath that bulldozes every perennial in the vicinity. It handles summer heat in Texas just as well as it handles deep winter in Minnesota. It's a universal conqueror with no climatic allegiance. If you've already brought it onto your property, plant it in a bucket with the bottom cut off but the walls intact, and watch carefully that it doesn't climb over the rim. Otherwise, in a couple of years, you'll be calling in an excavator to clean out what used to be a flower bed. All right, now we're getting to the really heavy artillery. These next ones don't respect state lines, city limits, or fences. They just take what they want. And before we get to the most dangerous, drop a comment below. Have you ever had to call in a professional landscaping crew or break out serious chemical warfare to save your garden? Or are you one of those heroes who handles it all with bare hands and a sharp spade? I want to hear your war stories. Japanese knotweed. If you ever see something growing on your property that looks like bamboo with enormous shovel-shaped leaves, grab an herbicide. Japanese knotweed is the alien invader of the plant world. It punches through building foundations, cracks asphalt apart, and can destroy a home's entire drainage system. In the United Kingdom, lenders have been known to deny mortgage applications when knotweed is found on a property. In the US, it's already aggressively invading private yards up and down the East Coast and pushing steadily inland. Its roots drive down 15 feet and spread outward 20 feet in every direction. Try to cut it back? It will come back 10 times stronger. The only real option is repeated applications of systemic herbicide combined with complete destruction of every growing point. Never, and I cannot stress this enough, never plant it for its looks or for screening. Otherwise, your home will literally start cracking under the relentless pressure of this green monster. Giant hogweed. This is not just an aggressive plant, it is a genuine threat to human life. Giant hogweed can reach heights of 15 feet and smothers a garden with its enormous umbrella-shaped flower clusters, releasing up to 20,000 seeds from a single plant. But the truly terrifying feature is its sap. It strips your skin of its natural protection against UV light, causing severe chemical burns that can take months to fully heal. In parts of the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest, it is already an established threat, and it actively colonizes abandoned properties across the Mid-Atlantic region. If it shows up in your yard, work in it only wearing full protective gear, long sleeves, gloves, and eye protection at a minimum. The key to fighting it: cut the root below the growth point, that's 4 to 8 inches underground, and do it before the plant ever flowers. And never, under any circumstances, hit it with a string trimmer. The aerosolized sap will turn a routine yard chore into a trip to the emergency room. Canada goldenrod. Plenty of people still think of it as a cheerful wildflower and plant it along fences or at the back of their borders. But Canada goldenrod is biological warfare in a yellow dress. It releases chemical toxins into the surrounding soil, a process called allelopathy, that literally sterilizes the ground around it. Where goldenrod takes hold, within a couple of years, not a single vegetable, not a single useful herb will survive. It drains everything the soil has to offer and converts it into dead, depleted substrate. In several northeastern states, it's officially classified as an invasive species. Across the Midwest and the South, it's consuming fields by the acre. If you want to keep your garden productive, pull it out by the root before it flowers. Its seeds are tiny parachutes that can float for miles. So if your neighbor has a patch of goldenrod, it will be visiting your yard soon enough. Total clearance is the only answer, and absolutely no mercy for those yellow plumes. Common ragweed. This enemy is dangerous on 2 fronts at once. First, ragweed is a pump. It drains water and nitrogen from the soil so aggressively that your tomatoes and cucumbers will simply wither out right next to it. Second, it's one of the most potent allergens known to medicine. Across the South, Texas, the Great Plains, and the Midwest, during ragweed's peak flowering season, millions of people literally cannot spend time outdoors comfortably. It has a powerful root that bores through any type of soil in its relentless search for water. Here is the advice that can save you enormous grief. If you see ragweed, pull it out immediately while it's still small and hasn't yet hardened up. Once it flowers, the battle is already half lost. It will bury your entire property in millions of seeds that will keep germinating reliably for the next 40 years. This is a fight for health, yours and your soil's. Common purslane. Rounding out our list is the micro-terminator that drives dedicated gardeners to the edge of despair. Purslane is a thick, fleshy, succulent weed that absolutely thrives in heat. In Texas, the Southwest, and throughout the Deep South, it is a genuine plague. Its sneakiness lies in its unbelievable vitality. You pull it up, toss it on the path under full blazing sun, and it does not dry out. It pumps the moisture from its fat, succulent leaves back into the stem, finishes ripening whatever seeds it had, and reroots itself from any node on the plant. Gardeners say purslane doesn't die, it just waits for rain. The only way to beat it is to collect every last scrap. every leaf, every stem fragment, into a bucket and carry it completely off the property. No compost pile. No, I'll deal with it later. Total collection and complete removal every single time. Otherwise, this living carpet will cover your garden so densely you won't be able to see bare soil anywhere. Well, friends, now you know these enemies by face. I hope this list saves you a mountain of time, effort, and heartache. The golden rule: it is always better to be overly cautious and install one extra line of root barrier than to spend the next 10 years at war with a plant you once thought was charming. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this with your gardening friends. Forewarned is forearmed. Drop a comment below and tell me, which plant on this list was the biggest surprise to you? Here's to healthy gardens, and I'll see you in the next one.